Hello again, friends and fans. Raptor here. Welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. What the deck? That's right. You better get your life jackets on because naval units are finally here. We have a ton to cover, and in fact, the Navy tab is probably one of the biggest tabs I've seen in the game. Right now, I'm just showing currently the ships, but under role, I can show you everything else. In fact, this is pretty much everything available to the NATO forces, MBTs and infantry, fire support, light reserve, etc. that can come in via the Navy or water or many other means as well. So basically, to cover this, we may make this in several portions, which we probably will. And additionally, it's good to note that some of these videos may disappear and or may be recreated due to the fact that some of this information may be out of date by the time that you see it. So let's go ahead and take a look at this ship here, the Fremantle. Very pretty, huh? But really what we should do is start with the naval ships rather than all the other units, and then we'll work our way down the line since there's so much to cover and there's so many new things to cover as well. Now, I haven't played with ships since the closed beta, and they haven't been available until very recently in Wargame Red Dragon. So it's time we start with the smallest but somewhat more important ships, and of course in fact, I should have said I only had a few of the ships selected, but these are all the ships that you can play with as the NATO or Blue forces in Wargame Red Dragon, available to all factions. For instance, there may be British, French, American, and other types of ships in this category. However, you should be able to play with any of them even if you're trying to keep it nationally specific. I'm not exactly sure. That could be wrong. Correct me down below if that's changed at any time. But again, I just want to get this out as early as possible since there's a lot of information to cover here. And we'll start with the smallest, but again, still very important ships, the coastal ships, or gunboats. Is another good name. The Monitor 105. In the American Civil War, there was a ship named the Moniker Lewinsky. The Monitor 105, rather, for 50 points, a artillery unit with two 20mm cannons on it as well. There was the Monitor versus the, I can't exactly remember the other name of the ship. My ability to recall the unit escapes me, but there was the Monitor versus something else, and that's exactly where this gets its name. It's capable of heading upriver, and it should be known that sailing says river. It says the bigger ships can only sail in deep seas. Coasters can snail close to the shores, but only river boats can sneak on rivers. Now that's interesting wording because there's no ships called coasters. There's no ships called river boats. There is a sailing river, so keep that in mind when you're selecting a gunboat. It should be the same as a river boat. So for instance, any of these three ships we are going to cover should be able to move on all bodies of water so long as they're connected to the sea in where they spawn. In addition to the 105 Monitor that had the artillery on it and the two autocannons is the Monitor Zippo that is armed with a 40mm Bofors cannon and napalm as well. In fact, there's two little napalm turrets in the back and one main firing Bofors L60 up front. Exceptional optics, but these are very slow ships, these two, only moving at 14 knots, made in 1959. Again, this can go upriver and cause a bad day for the enemy. The Bofors can fire 2100, which basically makes it like a small tank mounted on top of a couple of napalm tanks that can float. So think of it like that. Very good for impeding enemy movements across rivers and or getting rid of them while they're in cities. If you were to smoke a canal and then move up with this ship and just open fire manually, could take out or at least get the enemy to move a very specific unit that you're trying to eliminate and or destroy. Another nice unit here is the STR B90H. This is a very cool unit capable of moving at 32 knots, rather. I may accidentally say that once or twice. I may have said it already. Made in 1991. This is going to be a newer unit that can carry Hellfires. In fact, it carries 8 of them and can be very capable at really destroying anything. It has a nice grenade launcher that could impede unit movements, especially light transports, and can finish them off with the Hellfire missile. In fact, for 2 of these, or rather calling out 2 of these, getting them somewhere in a canal for 100 points can give you 16 Hellfires and can really wreak havoc on the enemy and stop them from being able to move across rivers or along anywhere near a canal or an open area next to one. Very nice as well because it can move so quickly that you can get out of the area before bombing runs come in. And even if the enemy sacrifices an aircraft to try to destroy one of these, 50 points for, let's say, a 100-point bomber might not be worth it if the enemy is not going to get the bomber back. So I think for this installment, we'll simply cover the ships, and then we'll move on to other types of naval units. Again, it's good to mention that, these videos may be remodified or re-uploaded depending on exactly what the changes are. And it's good to note that these are known as gunboats, as this is probably going to be the most important time that you actually know exactly what a unit is by its icons while calling it out, because these are completely new units. You don't want to call out the Monitor Zippo thinking that it's a giant frigate or a destroyer when it's about the size of a car in some instances. So let's step it up then to the next role. We're going to move on to, and I'm going to skip for now, command ships, but we're going to go on to escort ships. We'll do command ships last since they'll be the biggest and the best. Here we have the F.A.Q. By the way, since I'm unfamiliar with naval units, I'm unfamiliar with naval units in the game, and I'm unfamiliar with exactly what nation they may be from, it would be good for those of you who are familiar with these types of units to call out whether it's from South Korea or Japan or Sweden or wherever it happens to be from. I do believe, though, the biggest contenders when it comes to the naval forces of Blue 4 will be the United States, France, Japan, South Korea, and Great Britain as well. I'm not sure if the Germans or anyone else will get a ship in the future, but it is a possibility. So again, remember to check that deck before you go and try to take on the enemy. You never know if something new will slip in. And again, Scandinavia may be getting an update as well, so there might be units from them. But the F.A.Q, I should mention, we will have to jump back and forth between things when we get to anti-ship missiles, so keep that in mind. But anyway, for 75 points, the F.A.Q has a 76mm Mk34 on it. That's the main cannon there. It has an RGM 660, which is a radar-guided helicopter missile, which can take mostly against helicopters and airplanes, I should say. It's just anti-aircraft, really. No, it's not like the ADATs, so it can't engage any targets, but it can engage helicopters at 3,500 meters and airplanes at 4,200 meters, which makes it a very nice escort for, in terms of anti-plane. Think of this as sort of a hawk on the water. You see there that it has 12 missiles as well, too, mounted in the back, but 12 is a hell of a lot. And keep in mind, since this has radar missiles on it, this can also be taken out via the method of seed. Another good way to think of these two is close in weapons system. The better the CIWS, the higher the chance to destroy the enemy missiles aimed at this ship. This has none. So keep in mind that if an ASM is running towards this ship has no means of defending itself with the M2 Browning, the RGM 660, and the Mark 34. This is basically an escort ship for anti-aircraft and perhaps anti-light ship duty. This could definitely take out a gunboat or two, but could also be easily stunned by one as well. They also apparently have ECM, which gives it electric counter. Really interesting. For ASMs, it can get out of the way, but it also has good air detection. Text tint is what it's under for, air detection. So you can tell they're not even fully done with the mode here. But the better, the lesser chance to be hit on the ECM. So this is it's a floating eyesore, really. But it is a very capable unit. And I wouldn't even worry about the dual M2 Brownings. Really, that's just for shooting helicopters if they even get closer, and if you run out of RGM 660s. Interesting thing about the ships too is, depending on where they're hit, if they get hit in the bridge or if they get hit in a very specific spot, they may be unable to fight back for a very long time. And unlike ships, these will be much, much harder units to kill and thus worth many, many more points. If you get a direct hit on the bridge and it says weapons officer injured 120 seconds, they're not going to be able to fire their weapons for that long. And guess who gets to sneak in with the magical bomb? That would be you. So even for 75 points, still a very capable ship, and moves at 27 knots. It's also good to note that those previous three ships we looked at cannot cannot be targeted by ASMs, anti-ship missiles. They're too small, and so they're very good at getting close in on ships like this because they cannot be targeted by that. Only by the Mark 34 76mm would be able to target them if they were opposing each other. Let's move on to the Cham Suri, or the Cham Surai. This name has changed, I believe, since the previous beta, but this is a very neat anti-missile ship, rather. It can shoot down helicopters and airplanes, but what it does have is the Sea Vulcan CIWS. This is a ship you're going to want to keep in front of your other bigger ships. It has, well, it looks like it has two Sea Vulcan 20mm I guess I'll just say anti-missile weapons, and also a 40mm cannon on the front of it as well. This is what they consider to be a coaster, so this will be able to get very close to the coast and can help to defend, I guess, against any sort of weapons. These can even shoot down Hellfires and such, and these can be destroyed by miniature missiles like that, but again, the bigger the missile, the easier it is to hit. It also has a 20% ECM and has good CWIS or CIWS. I'll confuse that a lot, but keep in mind CIWS is close in weapons system. So basically anything that's getting close to the ship to try to destroy it. This can also shoot at helicopters at the same range, but airplanes is only 350 meters. I don't know if I believe that for a 20mm cannon. That may change in the future. Who knows? All right, let's move on to the Donghae. Donghae, we've got a really interesting unit here. 85 points, has a 76mm, 320 rounds on the Auto Melara. It is a 76mm cannon that can engage ground, helicopters, and airplanes. In fact, those seem to be its two main functions, is engaging ground targets and helicopters. Ironically, it has that kind of precision. Very interesting there. 40% ECM there, so it would be a nice ship to try to sneak around the enemy. It does have a 30mm cannon on it, a dual Emerlich 30, and a dual Bofor L57. That's both a 30 and a 40mm anti-aircraft weapon. It can still engage units on the ground, though, at 1,400 and 2,100 meters. Helicopters can also be engaged by the Emerlich at 3,500, and the Bofor deals with anything getting in closer. Accuracy on it is lowered. In fact, let's try to see where those are mounted. They're definitely in the back of the ship, and perhaps one towards the front. I'm not exactly sure. It does say dual, so I'm not exactly sure if it means dual barrel or dual system, because some of these, I mean, even though there's 1, 2, 3 there, we have only 2 accounted for, so who exactly knows? It does here, though, that says that Naval Autocannon, I'll read these descriptions. Naval guns are designed to fire anti-personnel rounds on direct trajectory, therefore requiring a line of sight to target. Now, it says anti-personnel rounds. However, again, it can still engage helicopters, airplanes, and I would assume other ships with this kind of weapon. If it couldn't hit a ship, it's kind of defenseless. It also has naval autocannons, which are quick-firing guns of small or medium caliber, usually 20 to 80 millimeters. They trade high armor penetration for better rate of fire, deadly to infantry and unarmored, lightly armored vehicles alike. They compensate their low anti-tank value with the fact that the hail of rounds they throw at an armored target will quickly cause a lot of stress. They're only guns capable of firing at aerial targets. That is not true, too, because they may be a gun that can target aerial targets, but we just saw a Vulcan cannon that I guess could fire. I'm not exactly sure of the difference between those, but do keep in mind what I have showed you previously. Some of those can engage aerial targets, and in fact right here it says the Melara can engage a helicopter at 2,100 meters. Maybe not very effectively, but it can still do that, so that's a very nice thing. In fact, very nice, because if you sneak up on an enemy FOB that's being resupplied by Chinooks and they start to take off, you can still engage if you get in close. Let's look at the Pegasus, the first ASM firing weapon. This is the Pegasus with the Auto Melara, which we just covered, but a very nice thing on it, the RGM-84 Harpoon, ×8, mounted in the back more than likely. The Harpoon is a heat, fire and forget, radar-guided, anti-ship missile system capable of engaging from 8750. Now, wait a minute, Raptor, this looks like a glitch, doesn't it? Why is this thing standing in the water? Can it walk? Is it robotic? No. It is not. In fact, it is what they call a hydroplane, and in fact, that's what makes it very deadly because it can travel at 38 knots. This thing can actually lift itself up out of the water and go so fast that it can almost travel in without really a time to respond against it. With the ASMs mounted on the back, 2 of these for 200 points could get very close to enemy units, and there you go. Think about it this way. You have 16 chances to destroy enemy ships. If these go undetected, or if they're out of range, or if anything in luck happens towards you, you could cause the enemy a bad day for just 200 points. Keep in mind, too, this is a coaster, so it can't go anywhere near the rivers. You can actually see the fins for the I guess they would call this a hydrofoil. Ship Pegasus can carry itself at a very high speed towards the enemy and then engage. By the way, these also can they're fire and forget, and also can fire on the move as well, from what I'm told. Yes, because you don't have to be stationary. So all weapons can be fired while on the move. Keep in mind, more accurate when sitting still. But for a weapon like this, I am, again, not aware if corvettes, by the way, this is a corvette. Previous ships have been corvettes as well. However, that was the previous ships have been air defense corvettes, and this is a little smaller and faster ship with the Auto Melara on it as well. No changes there, it looks like. Strength is 60. That's really going to be the armor values here in these ships, and also the optics are good on it as well. Stealth is poor. No CIWS, which means, well, it could be hit by a missile, it could not. You'll have to test that out. Confirm below whether or not corvettes and air defense corvettes can be hit by ASMs. My assumption is yes. Pegasus, very nice looking unit, very cool unit, and something that I really enjoyed seeing in the movies. Moving on then, the Pohang, hang high, hang low. Pohang, 125 points, the Auto Melara, the Harpoon on it, and the Daru CIWS. Some of these, by the way, in Wargame Red Dragon, it's very hard to determine the difference between I's and 1's and D's and O's. So this could be the Dardo or the Daru. It does sound more appropriate to be the Daru, but whatever. Anyway, so 40mm radar rounds on it. These ships, by the way, if I have not mentioned, do have radars on them, which make them perfect seed targets. And to counteract the seed, this CIWS can fire against it. It can target any... Wow, look at that. 2,076 rounds a minute, 120 strength. That's very well armored, and can travel at 27 knots. That's a very well balanced ship. Optics at sea, by the way. The better optics, the better chance of detecting boats. So the Pohang is going to be something you're going to want to hang in front of your ships in order to see the other ones, as where these ships only have, they all do change. So you see here optics on the Cham Sarai are medium, and on the F.A.Q, it can target air detection is very good. So you're going to want to bring a variety of ships, not just buy only the strongest, the biggest, and the most expensive. This also does have 2 radar-guided harpoons, which makes it a little weaker against ships. You can see they fire off the sides. 27 kilometers, or knots rather. I will make that mistake several times. So just keep in mind, anytime I say kilometers when it deals with ships, we're talking about knots. 1985, this was made as well, and this seems to be definitely a South Korean or Japan. Ship from Japan or South Korea. So there you go. That's it for the as they call them, escort ships. Keep in mind the Pohang is also a CV. It says CV, which means corvette. So keep that in mind. Also, there's corvettes with a little line over the top of them. Those are known as air defense corvettes, which is interesting because one of them doesn't really seem so much of an air defense. The F.A.Q does have a, well, I guess it does have missiles on it. So yes, okay. Technically, it is an air defense ship. Moving on to supplies then, very long and hard topic to cover here. It's going to take forever, so please, you may want to get a drink here. No, I'm just kidding. But you're going to be in the drink if you don't bring supply ships with you. These are basically floating fobs versus the flying fobs made in 1970. This is a river boat as well, which means if you need to get this upriver to resupply your units, you could definitely do that are on the ground. But this is also very good for rearming ships, especially those with ASMs and or that are commands and taken heavy damage. 75 points on these. These used to be 200, so they're very affordable now. The numbers you get may have been adjusted as well. So keep in mind these will not use fuel when you're moving around. They do travel at 22 knots. I don't know if that's per hour, or I'm assuming per hour, but 22 knots per hour. This says unit speed when driving off roads. I would absolutely hope that a ship was not on the road. Otherwise, that's going to be, I think it would be replaced with the word derp. 60 strength on that, and pretty much available for all types of naval, I would assume. And also keep in mind that these, when they do stop, they'll kind of display a ring. And these, by the way, are very small. They're just like the fobs, so kind of do think of these as floating fobs that you can command, because you really need to get close to them. But if these ships are destroyed, they're carrying fuel, ammunition. In fact, they're carrying as much as a fob. Really, this is probably the most heavily packed unit in the game for supplies. If one of these bad boys blows up next to your ships, goodbye, because this will take them down, as the explosion will be massive and rock anything around it. So if you do see some sort of a frigate or a corvette being rearmed by one of these and you happen to hit the supply vehicle, well, it's going to be a good day for you. Let's move on then to finally command ships. It's going to be awesome. You're going to love to cover these. So we have very different command ships here, by the way. We do have frigates to cover. We have destroyers to cover. We have, I do believe, one other type. Frigates and destroyers do seem to be the only thing. Okay, I thought there was one more specially named frigate, especially for this one since it's a lot smaller. But the Fremantle, yes, the Fremantle. By the way, again, I'm not exactly sure where these are from, but it does sound very French. In fact, it does look like the type, the previous, oh, not the Type 21, but that previous, whatever anti-radar missile ship we did see. However, this ship is, interestingly enough, replaces those radar missiles with a mortar just sitting in the back on the ground, which is very funny, just on the stern of the ship. By the way, bonus points if you could name all the parts of the ship. Of course, we have the bow and the stern, which are front and back, and then starboard and port. Starboard and port. Does anyone know? You're gonna have to name those. Go ahead, go for it. I definitely don't know. All I know is the bow is the front and the stern is the back, and I think port side and starboard are the other two, but I'm not exactly sure. So those of you in the Navy, go ahead and name it off. That'll be an easy question for you, or maybe not. Maybe you shouldn't be in the Navy if you don't know. I definitely wouldn't be. All right, so we have the dual M2s again, and the 40mm Bofors, and the L16. This is an 81mm mortar, which can actually fire pretty good range, almost 5,000 meters on that. However, very unfortunately, this ship is pretty defenseless against anything else, which is why you need to defend it, because it is a command ship. There are zones on the water, the open sea now, just like here, as you can see, that these can capture. So keep these well defended, keep these in the back, especially a ship like this. This is really just a cheap cap ship. It's nice that it does have the mortars as well, which means that if enemy troops have gotten on an island, for instance, an enemy infantry command has landed on an island nearby, this is going to be a really nice ship to kind of keep out to bombard them. You can kill them with the Beaufort, or you can kill them with the L16A2. I wouldn't even dare getting close with the M2 Browning. That can only fire a scant 1,225 versus the 2,100 on the main cannon. Let's get to the Suzuki Samurai. No, the Hatsuki. The Hatsuki, 250 points. That's got to be the biggest and baddest ass in the entire Blue Fleet. Take a look at it, boys. It's 76mm, 640 rounds on that. That's going to be very deadly against any small ships that come near it. It also has the Sea Sparrow, which can take down helicopters and airplanes alike. 32 missiles, 32. The Rim 7A Sea Sparrow, the Pacific Rim, you can be taking down anything over specifically over the Pacifically, because this thing, wow. That is why it's 250 points right there. It can defend its day all day or a day with the Sea Sparrow. However, no CIWS. Well, actually, I should say that the Sea Sparrow and some of these air-to-air missiles probably can take down other missiles. That's one thing that I should confirm, but that I've definitely seen before in the past, and that's why it says the CIWS is good. It can get very close. There's a weird rocket launcher there. That must, that's obviously for the Harpoons then, I was going to say. I don't think this is MLRS, but yeah, so you can see here those rockets on the side actually might be the RGM-84s, and this actually might be the Sea Sparrow launcher up front then, and then the 76mm Melara up front. So, and again, optics are exceptional, so it'll be able to see threats from way off and start to engage them. 8750 on the Harpoon. 40% accuracy, though, very low. So you want to always make sure that you engage ships against other ships in good numbers, and the Sea Sparrow should be able to take out helicopters and aircraft all day. 40% accuracy, though. So it'll have to continue to fire. But keep in mind, these ships will run out easily. If the enemy is attacking you with both ships and aircraft, eventually you're not going to be able to defend yourself against ships, or rather against ASM aircraft. Now, another thing to keep in mind too is that the best way to take these ships out is to first damage them at a closer range with 76mm, or if you can sneak in an ASM 1 or 2, and then try to keep the pressure on, and while their defenses are fully focused at the front or wherever they happen to be attacking you or defending themselves, attack them from the opposite side with an ASM. If all attention is being paid to the left side of this ship, left side over here, then you're going to want to attack it from the right with a with some sort of an ASM and finish it off. 250 points, by the way. These points are subject to change as well. In fact, will probably be one of the biggest things to change. And I wasn't correct in saying this was the most expensive, because I see what's here. Ho ho! All of Africa, baby, has built a ship, the Congo. Congo line. No, Congo. Look at that. The Congo. Wow, an incredible ship here. Wow. So for 420 points, you get the Congo, 127mm cannon on it. That's a big boy, capable of engaging from a whopping 5,775 meters. This is going to be what's going to take down ships like the Hatazuki, which is a destroyer, versus the Congo, which is also a destroyer. However, these should be separated by size. You can see the Hatazuki kind of a little more smaller. But again, these are different navies, so different ideas on what a freighter is and what, or rather a frigate. I may again make that mistake of frigate and freighter, but yes, frigate versus a destroyer. So here you see they have satellite television. You have the Octodad Breda, the breaded Octodad compact, 127mm. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the gun up front. And then the RGM Harpoon, which I was going to say is not mounted in the back, but I'm seeing some sort of, I thought it was actually I thought it was CIWS, but it is not. So you have the RGM-84 Harpoon, again armed on this ship, probably firing from the... I don't know if these are missile... I'm not exactly sure where the missiles will come out of. There, behind the... there you go. They fire straight up out of the tubes from the back. Or no, that's the... Okay, all right. So the Octodad up front is going to blow anything out of the water. On the side, you have the RGM-84 Harpoons, and I'm assuming behind the Octodad, then in this large area, is a bunch of tubes for the 5M2 or the SM2 MR Block 2, which is a radar-guided missile that can take out helicopters and airplanes with pretty good accuracy and very good HE power as well. This is a bad boy. This is going to definitely take on ships and or aircraft alike from good ranges, and this thing can pretty much defend itself against anything. 96 radar-guided missiles on this too. Man, you're going to have to be refilling this bad boy at all times. That is the most expensive unit I have ever seen in this game. Moving on, then, we have more of a... This is a German ship. No, I'm just kidding. Come on now. No. Don't click in the comments section. I'm well aware it's American. Yes, this is American. No, I'm just kidding. Come on, it's a French ship. The Lafayette. Yes, that's right. The Lafayette with the 86er up front. Also the 86er, meaning the 100mm up front. I'm giving these nicknames. And you also have the Exorcism, the Heat, fire and forget radar-guided anti-ship missile with 7,000 meters. Very nice. And also the Crocodile, or the Crowtail CN2. Yes, the Crocodile. 3,500 meters on both aircraft and helicopter. Yeah, right. That's really nice for 80 accuracy. Very cool. Exceptional. Oh, wow. Look at that. ECM is extremely high on this ship, by the way. This is a tarp, and they hang that up. And once the tarp goes up, they're like, where did they go, comrade? Yeah. So anyway, so you have the 86er up front, or the 68er, but I'm going to call it the 86er. Can fire that 100mm. This is actually a really nicely affordable ship. This is basically the Congo scaled down a little bit with a lot more ECM on it. This is going to be really nice to battle with. 24 radar-guided anti-aircraft missiles, as I had said. And this actually can fire at ground, which I think means, it can fire against ships or other units on the ground too. So you could target a T-82 if you wanted with it, or meaning a T-80 as well with this. Very cool radar-guided thing on the back. And for any of those of you who want to know, can a helicopter come out of this back thing and then back up? No, it cannot. Regardless of what you've seen in any trailer, it is currently not available for a helicopter to land on, to resupply, be resupplied from the Lafayette or any aircraft carrying vessel that you see here. If there are any Red 4 ships that have landing pads, they also cannot do that. Unfortunate that you can't land like a Tiger or something on here and get rearmed, or rearm the ship via helicopter. It'd be really interesting, really cool to see. However, again, they say the mechanics just can't do it, which means in Wargame Red Dragon 2, they probably will. No, that's just a little joke. First it was ground, then it was air. Now we're on the sea. So anyway, that's all there is to see here, except for the Oliver Hazard Perry. Yes, that's right, the Luke Perry. Look at that. The Otto Melara, the Harpoon, and the Block again. These 3 ships here seem to use the same weapon sets, just with a little different idea. The Oliver Hazard Perry, though, I am pretty convinced is an American ship, and seems to be able to hold 2 helicopters. That's really cool. Also, it has a strength of 175. The Lafayette has the strength of 150, and the Congo has a strength of 250. So this is a nice midline ship between the Lafayette and the Congo. Should also make jokes about it being the last ship too, because we do have one more to cover. These are, by the way, all deep sea ships, and they cannot, except for the Fremantle that can't get very close. These are all deep sea, and the most up-to-date ship then is the Lafayette, made in '92. But this ship here has very good optics, ECM of 30. And you can kind of see where the prices change. The ships are relatively the same, but the missile values and or the weapon sets kind of change. This is the RGM-84 Harpoon again with 16 missiles, and both 16 this SMI Mark, or the MR Block 5 or V versus the Harpoon as well. So you can kind of see that they've switched around the weapons a little bit. This one fires a 76 and the missile launchers up front. In fact, I think these things, they tip up and then go down and arm with another missile. I'm not exactly sure about Navy ships, but for those of you in the Navy, go ahead and share all your great stories. Let us know exactly how these ships work, or what you've served on, or what you've seen, or what you've toured. I'd really like to know. Very curious about that. Again, I'm very lightly touching on these ships, but that's the point of the What the Deck series. And what the deck is last? Well, it's the Type 21. This sounds like a South Korean vessel. Type 21, armed with a very weird 114 millimeter. Oh, that must be an American ship. That's got to be inches converted from something. So the Vickers Mark 8 can engage ground and helicopters from 4550 and 2100. It also has the Exorcist radar-guided anti-ship missile on it for... this is actually a very advanced ship for 1974. It has good optics. Speed is a little varied. You can also see that they switch out things for ships that don't have ECM. They just talk about size or something a little different on it. It is a deep-sea ship again, but it also carries a Scalos missile, naval surface-to-air missiles or medium long-range weapons dedicated to yada, yada, yada. So it has 65% accuracy, but can only fire at helicopters and aircraft from 2,100 meters. Going to have to be very close. 200 rounds on that AOE 114 millimeter Vickers Mark 8. 30 kilometers on there. That is going to be the fastest of the ships, actually. And so that's going to be a good starter if you're going to try to capture a position before the enemy in order to call out. Very interesting looking front to it. Again, I'm not exactly sure which nation these ships belong to. It would be nice to kind of have a little tag at some point. All it says is NATO, and my apologies for not knowing exactly which ship belongs to who or what front armor is for. The armor values, by the way, are all red, and I'm just wondering, obviously every ship seems to be the same, almost, except for the Fremantle, but obviously more armor, as they had said in a blog post earlier, will be heavily armored in the front and in the back, and the sides will be the least armored portions, as they are the biggest and obviously the largest. So you're more than likely going to hit a ship from the side than you are towards the front, but keep in mind on the sides are also where 2 of the CIWS. By the way, no CIWS on this ship either. Bad, it says. There is a chance that it could shoot down something with the Vickers, perhaps, but not as likely as the other ships. So I hope you're excited. Everything seems to be in ship shape, and I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much for your continued support. Thank you so much for being part of the Rat Pack. Also, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell a friend, especially about the What the Deck series. There's over, as you can see, 1470 units, so we're getting very close to that 1500. So remember to bring the cornucopia of pain. Don't forget to keep your password and pimp hand strong. Don't go anywhere. stay subscribed, because after this video is going to be videos that talk about exactly what can be called in then in support of these ships. We'll be covering aircraft and helicopters next, and then finally all the landing vehicles, including let's see, infantry transports and main battle tanks that can be brought in via the sea, and then can fight. There's the versus part on the ground once they land. They do come with free transports and such, but that's a video for another time. So until next time, we hope you enjoyed our Carnival Cruise Lines vacation, and we'll see you. Bye.